In compliance with Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, entitled Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as specified in the Act. Proper notice of this public meeting was provided in a notice of January 5th, 2017. Said notice was posted at the entrance of the Board of Education offices, mailed to the Nutley Township Clerk, advertised in the Nutley Sun and Star Ledger on January 12th, 2017, posted on the district website. This is an official meeting. Flag salute. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we all stay standing for a moment of silence for the losses that we've had in 9/11? And we're also going to have another moment of silence for all those that are dealing with a lot of uncertainty with Hurricane Irma in Florida. Thank you. Roll call, Mr. Kuzic.
Mr. Balsamo?
Here.
Mrs. Dancheck Martin? Here. Mr. Ferrara? Mr. Klein?
Here.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Here.
Ms. Russo? Here. Mr. Scalera?
Here.
Ms. Sherman? Here. Mr. Carnicella?
Here. Any correspondence this evening?
No.
Okay, we're going to move over to our superintendent's report. Dr. Glazer.
Hey everybody, welcome. Nice to see you all. I have to say it was my pleasure to welcome the staff back on Tuesday, September 5th. Although for many of them, they had already been in the district for several weeks previously, preparing for the students on September 7th. I was also thrilled to welcome Mayor Scarpelli, Board President Mr. Carnicella, and our Nutley Education Foundation President Lorraine Kaczynski, who also welcomed our staff. On Wednesday, the students arrived, all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. I was able to visit the schools, get into a lot of the classrooms. For me, the teachers and the students are the heart and soul of our district. And I would tell you it's what gets me out of bed every morning. So I'm really glad everybody's back. I'm glad to see everybody. There have already been many, many firsts. First football and soccer games, marching band breakfast. We kicked off the rotating drop schedule, the new lunch. Ken Bega, the whole Nutley High School leadership team, Mr. Carnicella. We are all out in force on Franklin Avenue on Friday for the beginning of the lunch. And I have to say to all of you, excellent job because it went seamlessly. The planning that went into that really, truly paid off. We had students enjoy lunch, working with their teachers. They were participating in clubs all over the building. Traffic was moving on Franklin Avenue. Our crossing guards were out there keeping everybody safe, and everybody was still smiling, so that's a good thing too. We will continue to monitor and adjust as necessary, but knock on plastic folding table. So far, so good. As many of you have heard me discuss in the past, and certainly at the last meeting, much of my time has been spent monitoring enrollment, making difficult decisions regarding class size and placement of newly registered students. As you've heard me say repeatedly over the year, our elementary schools are at capacity and then some, and we still have students lining up to register every day. I need to give another huge thank you to Mr. Natty Ferreira and his assistant Jean Boyle. They are registering kids as fast as they can show up, and we're putting them into schools and classrooms as best as we can, again, as fast as they show up. While the New Jersey Department of Education does not maintain class size guidelines, each district does set a standard. Ideally, that standard would be 20 students or below in kindergarten and first grade, 23 or below in grades 2 and 3, and 25 or below in grades 4 and 5. In the middle school and high school, 6 to 12, class size can sometimes rise to 28 and more. Even though I don't advocate for that, it is possible and it does happen and education goes on. Our elementary school enrollment has challenged these numbers in every school. We opened an additional kindergarten at Radcliffe. We have 5 kindergarten spots left at Lincoln, 4 at Spring Garden. Yannicott is closed. First grade is at CAP at Lincoln and Yannicott. It's above the threshold at Radcliffe, Spring Garden, and Washington. Each of them have 22 and 23 kids in first and second grade. Third grade is closed at Lincoln. There are 2 spots at Radcliffe, 4 spots at Spring Garden, only 1 left at Yannicott. And I could keep going through all the grades. And even though I continue to report this, even though this is backed up with real numbers and evidence, and we keep presenting demographers' reports and real estate trend data, there are people who are still somehow not hearing our message. Yes, there is static enrollment. It's not students in kindergarten, students out in high school. And even though our enrollment's up 30 students, grades K to 12, over the last year, same time this year, the issue is still the same issue I've been talking to you about for a year, and that issue is space. I've talked to you about the shrinking schoolhouse due to state mandates like ELL, special education. I've talked to you about wonderful programs like full-day kindergarten and our autistic program that previous boards brought in that are highly valued, but there wasn't a plan or a vision for their sustainability. There was not a thought to where those programs would be when they grew. We started with pre-K with 2 classrooms. We're at 5 now, just as an example. And that's brought us to this place of not having any more instructional room, period. And yes, students graduate from high school every year, and yes, a similar number may enter kindergarten, but the numbers are volatile at the other grades. And frankly, as I told you, I am out of classrooms. I have nowhere else to put students. In other news, you may have read or heard that the town has lost substantial transitional aid. And I am proud to report, I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, Annie, but I'm proud to report that the Board of Education worked with the Board of Commissioners to try and determine some innovative and creative solutions to solve the shortfall. We spent a lot of time together. And I will tell you that even though the Board of Commissioners invited us to their meeting tonight, and we invited them to our meeting tonight, they are in the process of adopting their amended budget. And obviously, they couldn't be here with us, and we can't be with them. But as a community, I have to say you should be heartened and to know the level of support that was contributed by all of us. And the amount of time and effort that went into averting what could have been a pretty serious situation for the town over the next couple months. Finally, as Mr. Carvasella noted, today marks the 16th anniversary of the September 11th attacks. We already had our moment of silence to honor the lives of all of those who were lost on that day. I do hope that at some point, either now or earlier today, you were able to remember the bravery and courage of so many, many people. And we wish peace in the hearts of all of the families and friends. And I hope that as a town and a community and as a nation, we never forget, even 16 years later.
Thank you, Dr. Goita. So we're going to introduce our student rep for this school year, Mr. Tao Chen. He's with us, and you want to spend a few minutes just to tell us a little bit about yourself, and if you have any reports for us. I know it's the first week of school, but...
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tao Chen, or you can just call me Tao, T-A-O, and I'm the student representative for this year. Nutley High School has just started the new block scheduling this year. I'm just going to express a couple opinions from my personal experience regarding this block scheduling. It was confusing at first, but I quickly became used to it. With the extended class time, Students actually have more time to work and learn in class. This way, there will be less classwork to become homework. Teachers also have more time to teach, and there is no need to rush. It results in quality education. With the 1 hour lunch period, there is not only time for eating and hanging out with friends, but also some time for homework and studying, if people choose to. The block scheduling really comes down to efficiency. Also, so far, I don't think there's any huge problem and everyone's fine with the new block scheduling. We have a couple events coming up for the high school. On September 26th is a freshman election for student council officers, and there will be a club fair after school on the same day. On September 29th, the senior cruise will take place. On October 13th is the homecoming dance, and on October 14th is the alumni day and football game and barbecue. In the end of October, there will also be a scary movie event. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Okay, so before we start moving our resolutions forward, in continuation from our last meeting, I just wanted to be able to make a statement to the public about, our progress towards our goals here in the district with solving our space issues. So tonight, I wanted to walk you through our timeline for presenting the referendum to the public for their consideration and vote. At our next regularly scheduled board meeting, Monday, September 25th, we will hold another town hall meeting, at which time we'll report on the information our district received from the state regarding the plans that we submitted earlier in the spring. We will provide the public with the preliminary eligible costs provided by the Department of Education, as well as a debt service aid that is going to be provided to help offset the costs to the taxpayers. And we will once again outline the monetary impact to the community. The Nutley Board of Education intends to move a resolution to vote on the proposed construction and cost in a special ballot on December 12th, 2017. Upon resolution approval, the Nutley Board of Education will notify the county clerk's office about this vote, and we need to comply within the 60-day ballot notification requirement, which is the first week in October. Our board recognizes the financial challenges we face as a community. Each member of this 9-member board has spent several years working with our administrative staff, teachers, architects, demographer, and town commissioners to better understand not only the current space issues, but also the future enrollment needs in the years to come. Earlier in 2017, we continued our journey with each of you and the public. We conducted 7 town hall meetings, community center meetings, and informal discussions in private homes to detail the spacing challenges we are facing in the district. Our goal has always been to maintain transparency and open communication with the community. The construction projects we've discussed with this community support the long-term space needs for our students and enhance our community. It's important to understand that these space concerns did not develop overnight. As we discussed in all of our town hall meetings, impacts have come from state mandates, which is the way we need to deliver education to our students, the introduction of special education programs, full-day kindergarten, property development, and turnover of single-family homes in the town. The Nutley Board of Education continues to remain accountable to our children and our community. We are hopeful that our process and transparency translates to the best long-term outcome for Nutley students and hopefully stabilize or see an increase in property values for the taxpayers. This referendum is not about passing or failing. It's not about winning or losing. It's truly about direction. It's about Nutley. It's about a community. It's about having a voice and providing the Board of Education's direction in our commitment to this community and our children. As a board, and as I close, we are confident that by presenting the referendum to the community, we are doing our best to provide an exceptional education to all of our current and future Nutley students. Thank you.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
conference have something to say. I have only been with you for a year, and obviously this process has gone on for a number of years. And I really feel an obligation to tell all of you, if you don't know, that each member of this Board of Education, individually and as a collective, have been tireless in identifying areas for growth, setting goals for moving all of us forward. And I can't tell you how very much I appreciate the many hours, many hours, they volunteer in service to our schools. Each person that you see sitting here has taken the time to understand the issues, the challenges, the complications. So this is very sophisticated. All of those things that are facing the district. And I think for me, most importantly, this group of people works together as a team and has been so very thoughtful in planning for the future of the district. I have to say, in bringing forth the proposed building projects, all of you are presenting the very best option that we have to address the overcrowding and the diminished space and changing program. But for me, again, more importantly, planning for the sustainability of our programs. Pre-K, full-day kindergarten, our special ed programs, all of those things that we value so greatly that were not put in place with the thought of sustainability. I also have to tell you, if you don't know, you should know, each of our board members are also taxpayers. So they're grappling with this personally, with the costs, with the benefits. But as Mr. Carnicella said, ultimately it's the community who decides. The board can put the proposal forward, but only you, each one of you who vote, can make a decision to address the needs of the district. In putting forth a referendum, the board has done their due diligence, and I thank you all so much for that. Again, I know how very many hours it's taken. But now, the community, you have to choose the very best opportunity for our schools and our children. I look forward to hearing from you on September 25th. Thank you. September 25th.
Thank you, Dr. Blake. We now come to the portion of our meeting where we allow members of the public to address the board. In this section, we allow questions or comments on only resolutions addressed in tonight's agenda. Our board regulation 601 allow 20 minutes for these communications. Each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you try to stay within this requirement. Speakers may speak more than once, only after others wishing to speak on a topic have been heard. All statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address the board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board, and sign in with Mrs. Capuzza before you take the microphone. Mrs. Quirk, you're up.
Okay, Terry Quirk, 45 Hampton Place, spokesperson for the Nutley Parent Advocacy Network. On page 5, under acceptance of donation, number 3, store scholarship awarded to students. Can you explain that, what that is?
Actually, there is a portion when we move that resolution where Mr. Scalera is going to be explaining a little bit about that scholarship. So
Okay.
we're going to be recognizing it at that point.
Okay, I just want to know, is the board awarding that money to the, or
No.
is that coming from
No,
someone
the
else?
store scholarship is a scholarship from a woman who actually lived in Nutley, who had put this money set aside. Sorry, Freddie, I'm taking your thunder away. And so in the trust documents, there is money that's afforded to the students of Nutley. There are requirements, and the decisions are made by the mayor, as well as the president of the board and the superintendent. So they collectively decide where the funds go.
All right, good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, I'm short. My name is Christina Soretsky. I live at 343 Winthrop Drive. I have a 6th grader at Yantakah and a high school student. Kudos on the block schedule, he loves that. So first I'd like to make a statement and then ask a question.
Okay, so I'm gonna just stop you for 1 second.
Okay.
Does it have to do with the resolutions?
It has to do with the
Okay.
referendum.
Oh, with the referendum?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask that you hold
Okay.
until we get through the resolutions, and then when it's open for everyone to speak to the board on any issue, then we'll call you back.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to be heard on the resolutions for tonight's agenda? Seeing none, let's see here. Ms. Dan Martin, would you move academic resolutions, please?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like to move academic resolution 1 and 2 as written.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kakuza?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes, I want to abstain on number 2 pursuant to convention.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. Mr. Kaczynski, would you take administration, please?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. I move administration resolutions 1 and 2.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kakuza?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. Mr. Scalera, would you move finance resolutions, please?
Yes, Mr. Carnasella, I move finance resolutions 1 through 3. The statements to be made on resolution 2 and 3.
Yes.
Second.
Under acceptance of donations, a donation of a Nikon microscope used from Joe Kinney for the science department, a donation from Nutley Education Foundation for a new Matter Mod V desktop 3D printer, and we do have members of the Educational Foundation here if you'd like to stand just to show your support.
Yep, absolutely.
And the Storer Scholarship, which was explained a little bit during the previous, but Eleanor Storer passed away. She set up a trust fund. It's controlled by Mr. Frank Constavator, and then there's requirements for that. And then all of the applicants are reviewed by the Board of Ed President, the Mayor, and the Superintendent, and all the recipients, Calori, De Silva, Baniello, Intendola, Mitchells, Ardente, Nicolette, and Skelton will be receiving the amounts that are published in the resolution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Second.
There was a second. Yeah. Roll call?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. Ms. Sherman, would you move personnel, please?
Mr. President, I move personnel resolution number 1.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, Ms. Kakuza?
Mr. Balsamo?
Yes.
Mrs. Stanchek Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Klein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaczynski?
Yes.
Ms. Russo?
Yes.
Mr. Scalera?
Yes.
Ms. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Carnasella?
Yes. In this section, we allow questions or comments on all school-related matters. Our regulation allowed 30 minutes for these communications. Again, each person shall be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask you to try to stay within this requirement. As I stated earlier, all statements will be directed to me as the chairperson, and no one may address the board members individually. Please be reminded that if your statement is too lengthy, abusive, obscene, irrelevant, or redundant, your participation may be terminated. Please remember to always state your name and address each and every time you address the board, and sign in with Mrs. Kakuza before you take the microphone. Will the first person wishing to be heard, please? This is the spot.
You don't have to sign
You
it.
can skip the beginning, skip the beginning.
All right, again, Christina Ceressi, 343 Winthrop Drive. So my statement is that I am absolutely in favor of the referendum. I have seen firsthand the space constraints, particularly at Yanticott over the years, and they've only gotten more challenging. My question and sort of my concern is, as we move through this process, we have seen you work really closely with the Board of Commissioners to push this forward. The missing piece, at least for me, on the outside looking in, is the zoning board. And word on the street is every time something gets approved, mixed-use residential, people are they want to know why. Why is this being approved when we know we already have challenges? And there might be a very simple answer. I mean, I've been in some discussions where, I've been told legally you have to approve certain things if they meet certain criteria. That's just the way it is. Or maybe they're planning for, additional housing from the medical school down the road. I don't know, but I feel like none of us know, because at all of these meetings so far, there has not been a representative from the zoning board to talk to, sort of own that part of this equation. And it is part of the equation. I mean, I get the state mandates and all the other issues as to why we're overcrowded. That is a piece of it, and that's continuing. So are there any plans to maybe have a representative or several from the zoning board to come to a town hall, to come to a BO meeting, and to explain that part of this equation, so that rather than leaving people to their own devices and assumptions, which is never good, because the assumptions are always bad, to just put it out on the table, good or bad. It's, these are the reasons for these decisions. If it's transparent and we all understand it, I feel like it's easier for us to all sort of get on board and move forward rather than wondering what's going on behind the scenes. Thank you.
So I'm going to pick out that question in between the statement. And I'm going to say that, I think that we're trying the best that we can to extend our arms and really stand side by side with the Board of Commissioners. We were in front of the Planning and Zoning Board at their joint annual meeting to really go over the concerns that we're having as well. There are challenges, as you know, and you stated those with zoning in itself, that certain things are going to be approved just because of the nature of the project. We will continue our work to continue to extend to them and have them come to these town hall meetings and put explanations out there. It's always a difficult task to really get them to come and do those parts of it. It has to be on them. But we're going to work as close as we can to make that happen. My other concern is that I've heard those same similar comments where if the building keeps going, the referendum I'm not voting for. And I can see some value in that, except that it really only represents one of the four other issues that are still surrounding the reason why we're in the situation we're in. And we've been fortunate, but at some point everything is catching up. So we're gonna continue our work, and we're gonna continue to communicate, and hopefully we're going to have in place the things that we need to make sure that we're going to be successful as we approach the next phase.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else wishing to speak to the board? Seeing none. Any old business to come before the board? Any new business?
Mr. Gonzalez?
Well, yeah.
If I could, just a statement, and I welcome while we're here. I've been working on multiple days of deployment from the state of New Jersey to Florida. I was just notified that we're leaving with the task force on Wednesday. It's a multiple-week deployment, so I want to make a statement that I support the referendum in case I'm not here to give a vote on the night of referendum, because I'm not sure on my time frame when I'll be returning to the state. But as both of you know, my emergency services career, that's always been front and center. I've been to Katrina and 9/11, and I'm running a big project, and we're trying to give the USAR team down in South Florida, going place by place. So I apologize, I won't be here. I do support the referendum, and thank you for allowing me to make a statement.
Absolutely. Okay, whereas the Board of Education will be discussing matters exempt from public discussion pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12. Now there be resolved that the Board of Education recess to close executive session at this time to discuss student matters, personnel, and property acquisition. Be it further resolved that the results of the discussion will be made public by inclusion on the agenda of a subsequent meeting of the Board of Education, and when the reason for discussing such matters in closed session no longer exists. Do we have a motion to go into closed?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.